Today you will learn about Pythagorean Theorem. Pythagorean Theorem was created by a famous Greek mathematician named Pythagoras. The theorem states that for a right triangle, the sum of the squares of the length of the two legs is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. Now it's important that you know what sides of the triangle represent the legs and what sides of the right triangle represent the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle, and it is always opposite the right angle. The legs are the two sides that are adjacent. Adjacent means next to the right angle. So when I look at this right triangle, the Pythagorean theorem says that a squared, the square of one leg, plus the square of the other, b squared, equals the square of the hypotenuse. So if I were given two sides of a triangle, I could find the unknown side. So if I was told that A is 5 and B is 12, I could find the measurement of the unknown side by plugging it into the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a is 5. I'm going to substitute in the value 5 for a, and I need to square it. B is 12, so I'm going to substitute in the value 12 for b, and I need to square that. And I'm going to solve for c squared. So that becomes 25 plus 144 equals c squared. Well, 25 plus 144 is 169. So c squared equals 169. In order to get c squared all by itself, I must take the square root of that. So the square root of c squared, whatever I do on one side, I do to the other. The square root of c squared is c. The square root of 169 is 13. So again, Pythagorean theorem says if a triangle is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The converse of the Pythagorean theorem says that if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then the triangle is a right triangle. So we need to discover if the following sides form a right triangle. I'm given the legs, 5 and 8, and a hypotenuse of 9. I always try to draw a triangle and label the edges. So 8 squared plus 5 squared equals 9 squared. That is 64 plus 25 equals 81. Well, 64 plus 25 is 89, and 89 does not equal 81. So this is not a right triangle. A Pythagorean triple is a set of three integers. Pythagorean triple. Set of three positive integers such that it fits the rule A, B, C, the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if you were given three positive integers, such as the example 5, 8, and 12, remember that the longest side, the largest number, is always the hypotenuse. So is 5 squared plus 8 squared equal to 12 squared? Let's check and see if this is a Pythagorean triple. Well, 25 plus 64 is 89. 12 squared is 144, and those are not equal to each other. Remember that a Pythagorean triple is made from three positive integers, so it's not going to be a decimal. All right, so I have a triangle here. This altitude or height drawn in the center is perpendicular to the base, so it forms a right angle. I need to find the measurement of h and the measurement of c to the nearest tenth of a meter. You'll notice that I have, if I break it up, I have a right triangle with a height of with a base of 6, a height, h, that I'm trying to find, and a hypotenuse of 10. So I can plug that into Pythagorean Theorem. 6 squared plus h squared, because those are my legs, equals 10 squared. 36 plus h squared equals 100. I can subtract 36 from both sides, and I find out that h squared equals 64. Take the square root of both sides, and I find out that h equals 8. So the height of this shape is 8 meters. All right, now I have to find c. So I know that h is 8 meters. Let's find c. All right, so to find c, I need to give myself some more workspace here. Let's erase all of this. So c is the hypotenuse of the right side of this triangle. So if I think about this triangle, I'm going to draw it again just so you can see the image. So now we're focused on this piece, or this edge, 8, 9, and I'm trying to find c. So that would fit into 8 squared, one leg, plus 9 squared, the other leg, equals the hypotenuse squared. So 8 squared is 64, plus 9 squared, which is 81, equals c squared. 64 and 81 is 145, equals c squared. I need to take the square root of both sides. Using a calculator, I find out that the square root of 145 to the nearest tenth is about 12.0, because it's 12.04. So 12 meters. All right, now let's try some real world applications. A 13-foot ladder is resting against a house. So if this is the side of the house, here's my ladder resting against the house. Just draw a little sketch there. The base of the ladder is 5 feet from the base of the wall. So this is 5, and remember my ladder is 13 feet tall. I have to figure out how high up the wall the ladder goes. So I'm trying to solve for x. Well, here's my house. This forms a right triangle. 13 is actually the hypotenuse. X squared plus 5 squared equals 13 squared. X squared plus 25 equals 169. Subtract 25 from both sides. X squared equals 144. Take the square root of both sides, and I find out that x equals 12. So how high up the wall does the ladder reach? The ladder reaches 12 feet. All right. A baseball diamond forms a square. So we'll label this home, first, second, and third. If it is 90 feet from home to first, this is 90, how far does the catcher at home have to throw the ball to reach second base? So I'm going to throw the ball here. Well, it says that the baseball diamond forms a square. So that means if from home to first base is 90 feet, it is also 90 feet to go from first base to second base. So notice, since it forms a square, these are right angles. So I can say that 90 squared plus 90 squared equals the hypotenuse squared. This is the longest side right here, or the distance from home plate to second base would be the hypotenuse. So I have 8,100 plus 8,100 equals c squared. 16200 equals c squared. So the square root of 16200 is about, to the nearest tenth, 127.3, because it's 127.27. So it's about 127.3 feet for that catcher to throw the ball from home plate to second base. All right, here, the next question is the distance between three cities on a map are 45 miles, 56, and 72. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just kind of sketch a right triangle because it asks how we can use the Pythagorean theorem. So remember that the largest measurement is going to be the hypotenuse, and then the other two measurements will be the legs. So plug that in. It says, do the positions of the three cities form a right triangle? How do we determine this? Well, if it forms a right triangle, that means it will fit the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is by using the converse, right? I'm using the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So let's see, what is 45 squared? 45 squared is 2025 plus 56 squared, which is 3,136, and 72 squared is 5,184. 2,025 plus 3,136 equals 5,161, and those are not equal. So do these measurements form a right triangle? And the answer is no. All right, a jogger runs 8 miles north and then 15 miles west. What is the shortest distance she must travel to return back to her starting point? So this 8 actually is over here. You can't really tell that from my picture. All right, so we're going to have to use Pythagorean theorem again. 8 squared plus 15 squared equals x squared. 64 plus 225 equals x squared. 225 plus 64 is 289. Take the square root of both 289 and x squared, and I find out that the distance is 17. So 17 miles is how far she's going to run back. Our last example, showing you how to use using Pythagorean theorem to find the distance between 2 points on a coordinate grid. So if I look at point A and I look at point B, I am trying to calculate the distance from A to B. Well, I can do that if I turn those distances into a triangle. So I'm actually trying to find the long side right there on the diagonal, and I can count the distances here. Notice that each grid mark is just a half. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. This side represents a distance of 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This side represents a distance of 12 units. And plugging that into the Pythagorean theorem, I can find the measurement of the distance from A to B. 25 plus 144 equals x squared. 169 equals x squared. Taking the square root of both sides, I find out that the distance from A to B is 13 units. And that is it. So your next item in your module is going to be to complete a 5-question quiz, and then you have a 15-question homework assignment. Good luck.